Okay, so today we're going to talk about how to communicate data between components. And we're going to have three components, a parent and then two children. So I'm going to create the children. So as usual, we create a new folder, but inside the SRC. So create a new folder. This is going to be the son. And then inside, I'm going to have a son component. And then we're going to have another component inside the SRC. It's going to be the daughter. And also it's going to have a daughter component, daughter file. Okay. So so far, yeah, we only have the parent there. That is our app. And then the daughter, we need to import React as usual. Import React from React. Then export default function and the name of the component. That in this case is daughter. And then we return what we want to render. That for now is going to be a div with a title inside. So h1, I am the daughter. So now we need to, if we want to render this, we need to import it in our app. So that's what I'm going to do now. Import daughter there. Then daughter. Okay, now to render it, we're going to put it here, daughter. Okay, so let me check. I have a syntax error somewhere. Okay, yes. Okay, so let's see what we are rendering now. Okay, so for now we have the parent and we have the daughter. So let's render the son as well. So we have it here. So again, the same thing. So it's exactly the same. So I'm going to get it from here. Then instead of daughter, son. And likewise. And also we need to do the same thing with it. So son and son. So and now we render it. Okay, yes. Okay, fine. So what we're going to do now, the parent. So what I want to show you is how to communicate the data that is on daughter with the component son, because we know we can pass props down, and that's all we can do. We can't pass props up. So I'm going to show you a way to make them communicate. So the son, they're going to have dinner. So the son wants to have the same for dinner as the daughter. So they need to communicate. So I want for dinner the same thing as my sister. And then the daughter, tell me something ridiculous, like not very likely to be possible to have for dinner. Something very expensive, or I don't know. Something that if you were the parent would say, no, no, you.
Lobster.
Sorry?
Lobster.
Lobster. Okay. So I want lobster for dinner. Okay. So let me check that this is rendering. Yes. So now we need to communicate this lobster. We have to somehow send it to the son. I want the son to get the lobster from the daughter. And yeah, so if we try to pass props, if we had the props here, we could pass them down to daughter and then to son, right? But because they are at the same level, they are both children of the parent, they can't communicate directly. So we need to find somewhere to store this lobster. So what I'm going to do, so when we have to somehow store some data that changes and it depends on the user or the situation, what do we do? Do you know? So we need state, right? But the thing is, we need to share that state. So we need to make the daughter to update the state of the parent. And then we can pass that state to the son. And I'm going to show you how. So first of all, we need to store this somewhere. So let's create const. Then we're going to use state. So we have to import it. And set daughter's dinner. Oh, sorry. Now use state. And for now it's going to be nothing. Okay. And now how can I display nothing? So that nothing that I put here instead of lobster.
Do you use you put in the curly braces, you put daughter's dinner?
Yes, very well. Okay, so if we check now, we have I want nothing for dinner. Very well. So we need to make also the son have nothing for now. So first of all, before passing that, this is nothing, but we want to be able to change it. So I'm going to create an input. And then this input is going to listen to the changes. So we're going to use an onChange event listener. And now each time the text in the input changes, we're going to update the state. So to do that, we do this. So we have set daughter's dinner, and what we pass is, so we are listening to the event. So it's going to be E. We can do E or event. And now event dot target dot value. So each time we type what is inside this input is going to be sent to daughter's dinner. So let's try and see if this works. So we said lobster, right? So lobster. So it works. For now, it works. So now that we have this, we want to be able to send this to the app, to the parent, and store it in the state there. So in order to do that, in the parent, we need to create the state, right? So here we need to import use state as well. And I'm going to do const, then how do I call it? Let's call it daughter's choice. And set daughter's choice. Okay. And use state. For now, it's going to be nothing. And I want to display this somewhere. So let's create a p tag. And let's say my children want daughter's choice for dinner. So we open the curly braces, as Vinay said before, and we put daughter's choice here. Okay. So let's see that, yeah, for now it's okay. And now the way to communicate. So there is not a direct way native to, so the way to communicate, to make siblings communicate is through the parent. So we need to update the state on the parent and then pass it down to the son. And the way to, and that's a bit tricky because we can only pass props down, right? For instance, if I'm here, I can't pass, I don't have the parent here anywhere. I can't pass it to another component. So the way to do that, we need to pass a callback function. So the function that is going to update the state, we need to pass it as a prop to the children, to the child. And then inside this child, when we run that function, it's going to update the state on the parent. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to, I don't know, how do I call this prop? Let's say ask parent, something like that. Ask parent, then now the daughter is going to tell the parent what she wants for dinner. So if we do this and now set daughter's choice, and what we need to pass something, right? That is going to be the meal. Because it's only one thing, we can just put meal. And now in the daughter, we need to use it. So we need props. So now I'm going to also render a button. And when we click on that button, we are going to invoke that function. So let's put the button here. And this button is going to be ask parent. And when we click on click, we are going to use the function that we passed. So it was props dot ask parent. Okay, but I can do it this way. I need to wrap it into another function. And what we pass here is the meal. So we said that what the Dota wants to eat for dinner is this, right? So we need to store it on the parent's state as well. So like this. Okay. So let's check if this works. So now we have the parent that for now has the children want nothing. The Dota wants nothing for dinner. So let's say lobster. And now let's ask the parent to see if we can communicate with it. So we ask parent, you can see that this was updated. And now the other step that we need to do is to pass this to the son. So let's go back to the code. So we on the app, now we have daughter's choice. So the son, I don't know, let's call it dinner. No, daughter's choice, because it's what the daughter wants, not what the parent is going to cook. Daughter's choice is going to be daughter's choice. Okay, and now inside the son, we need to render that. So I want for dinner, instead of this, let's put for dinner. We need the props and props dot daughter's choice. So let's check it. So for now, son wants nothing. Everyone wants nothing. So let's say again lobster. Now let's make it lowercase lobster. Now we're going to ask the parent, and now the parent communicated with the son. Do you understand it so far? Any questions? So basically, the props can only go down. So you can only communicate from the parent to the children. If you need to communicate the other way around, from the children to the parent, the way to do it is by passing a function that updates the state on the parent. And then when you invoke that function, that state is going to go to the parent. Do you understand this? If you don't understand it,
Okay.
yes?
Yeah, I do kind of.
Okay. So now the parent doesn't want to cook this. So tell me another thing that the parent is going to cook for the children. Anything. Kids. Because Vinay said before.
I don't know. Caviar.
No, but something more realistic. Noodles, okay. So let's say my children want lobster. Now another p tag. Sorry, not like this. I am going to cook, and this is also, I also want to get it from an input, as I did before. So to do that, we need to create an input. And what else? Can you complete it for me? Do you remember?
Is it on change?
Yes, on
What
change. Yes. And what this
on
does
change?
is going to run some code each time the text inside the input changes. So this, what we want to do, we want to store what, sorry?
What did you say? Sorry, we want to store something in there.
Yes, we want to
I
store,
was going to say put it in curly braces. Curly
yes,
brackets.
yes. So what we want to do now, we want to store what we type into the input in the state, right? So we need to create a new property in state. So const, and let's call it dinner this time, and set dinner, use state, and let's make the default to be nothing. And inside the on change, when we are listening to an event, if we want what is on the input, we need to define this parameter that is usually called E. That is the event. So event, and now set dinner, and we're going to set it to event.target.value. Or this is like a convention because it's used many times. So it's very likely that you're going to see it as E. It's like the I in the index when you are iterating over a loop, over an array. But yeah, we can do either event or E. We could call it anything. But sorry, to get the value that is on the input, we need to access the property that is on the target and then the value. So if we do this now, we need to display it. So here, I'm going to cook. So we need to put there. And yeah, now we have the input here. So I'm going to cook nothing. So we set noodles. Okay, noodles. So it's working. But now we need to communicate that to the daughter and to the son. And you're going to tell me how to do it. So what do I do now?
You need to store it in what's it called? You need to store it, don't you, somewhere so that it can be used.
It's already stored here, right? So
Uh,
like when we type, it's being stored in dinner.
Would you go to the daughter or son files and then just put in a new key tag, and then in there just say this is what we're going to have.
So we can do that.
And then put that into the curly braces. Put dinner into the curly braces.
This is what we are going to have. And then between curly braces, I put dinner, like this.
Yeah.
But look at the error we have. Dinner is not defined.
Import it. We need to import it, yeah.
No, we need to pass it. When you are passing some prop, because it's a prop, right? So what we import are the components, the whole components. But right now we are just passing some data, so some properties. So to pass it, we need to create a prop in the component. So we put here, I don't know, dinner, and then the value that is going to be inside, so the data that is going to be inside this prop is going to be what is in dinner, right? So I'm going to put dinner. And likewise for the son. So dinner and dinner.
So you know when you've got dinner equals and then dinner in curly brackets, that what you've written there is a prop.
So the prop is the arguments. So the arguments that you put in a, so not the arguments, sorry, the attributes that you put in a component, those are the props. And then what you put after the equals is the data that you are passing down to the component. So to update the state in the parent, in the app, we passed before a function, right? And now I'm just passing the data, so the string with the dinner they want. So this was, now we are passing it, but then we need to also, instead of dinner, we have to put props.dinner, right? Like we did here. We did props.askParent. So this is the way to access a prop. Props is an object. So when you have an object, you have the props dot the name of the property you want to access. And if you see now, we don't have any errors. And I have to do the same thing with the son. So let's do that. Okay. So now let me check. Let's check. Let's see if it works. So can you see it like this? Maybe a bit more.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think there's an error, isn't it? I want for dinner nothing.
Well,
Is that how you?
for now, it's nothing. Like I know it's not very correct. Like I don't, it would be, I don't want anything for dinner, but this is what we have on state right now. Nothing. It's what we set by default. So first, the daughter is going to ask for lobster. So you see, now it's not nothing anymore. So lobster. So now, if we ask the parent, we're going to send lobster to the parent, and then the parent is going to send also what the daughter wants to the son, because the son wants the same thing as the daughter. So we do this. See, now it's lobster. I want for dinner lobster, and then what the parent is going to cook instead is noodles, and it was passed down to the children. So it works. Is there something else you would like me to do again or to explain it better? Do you understand it?
Could you just very succinctly summarize
Yes.
how you did it?
Yes. So basically, I wanted to make this this part here. So I wanted to communicate the data on the daughter to send it to son. I wanted to send this string with the dinner that when we start is nothing, but then when we start typing, this is going to change. So this is what we are displaying. When we type here, we type this lobster or caviar. When we type, this thing that is changing is this property here on state. But we can't communicate directly because the son is not a children of the daughter. So we need to pass it up to the parent. This is called lifting the state up. So the way to lift the state is you have a function that is going to update the state in the parent that we called daughter's choice. So to set the daughter's choice, we need to pass it to the daughter. So that's what we are doing in this prop. Ask parent is going to pass this to the daughter. And then what we are doing on the daughter with that is we created a button that when we click, we are going to update the state in the parent. So we are going to, so we need to first send the function down to the children, to the child, and then this function is going to update the state in the parent. So once we do that, we are setting the daughter's choice. This value here, we can pass it to the son, because here the son is a child of the app, a child of the parent. So we can pass it directly. We can only pass props from parent to child. So because we can pass it, we just need to create a prop with the value and then pass the value down. And that's why when we update the state on the parent, when we click on the button, the son also changes the text. So this prop, we called it daughter's choice. So we check on the son, daughter's choice. Here it is. So the son is going to want for dinner the same thing and as his sister. So I'm going to show you again. So caviar. Now when I click, the daughter is going to pass to update the state in the parent. And then we are using that value here. And then we are passing it down to the son again here. So when we click, you see, it changed to caviar. And that was it. It's important because when you are working with React, you're going to find a situation that you need to communicate components. You need to communicate, especially when you are splitting everything into components. You have a button inside a component, but you need to use the data that that component is submitting or whatever is doing in another component. And that component is not a child of that component. So when we are clicking here, we are sending the data to the parent to be able to use it on the other components. If we don't do that, we can't use it because there is no way we can pass it down because we are already on the bottom of the tree.
In general,
yes.
In general, is that what you do with? Is that what you do with props? You always send it up towards the parent so that it can be used throughout the app.
Yes, yes. The only way
do it as and when you need it.
Exactly. The only way to pass props is from top to bottom. If you need to communicate the other way around, the way to do it is this one. You need the app rendering the daughter, and then imagine that the daughter is also rendering another component, and then that component is rendering another component, and then inside that component you need to pass that data to another part of your app. So the way to do it is this one. But this is the way to go when you have something simple like we have here. You only have one level. When you need more than that, there are other tools because it gets complicated quite fast. But do you understand? Yes.
I think it's quite cumbersome.
Sorry?
Because I think what you're doing then is, I think it's quite cumbersome. I think what you're doing is you have to create a function in the ancestor, and then all you can do is to change the state of that function, and then that way it changes that function of the ancestor, and then it gets passed down again. Does that
Exactly.
sound about right?
Yes. What we can do is we create a function that updates the state on the ancestor. And then you pass it down to the child that is going to run that function. And when you do that, you update the state on the parent or the ancestor. And once you have it there, you can pass it to the other components.
Is there an easier way? Because you said there's another way. There's multiple
When you
levels.
are
It's quite cumbersome.
Yes, when you have one level, this is the easy way. When you have more levels and you have to do something called props drilling, that is like you have to pass the props to this component, and then in this component you have to pass it down again, and then on the next child you need to pass it down again. That's called props drilling. You can use something called context, and that in that case you don't need to pass it down constantly. But in this case, when you have something simple like this, components, each one with state, with these tools, it's easier to handle it. Okay, so do you have any questions about what I did? Do you understand it? Would you like me to repeat anything, or should I leave it here?
Is there any way that you can visualize it? So obviously, I understood it,
Mhm,
but is there any way? Because obviously, when you're coding,
mhm,
you're going to have, a problem trying to remember the logic. Because, say for example, I come back to it, I don't know, a week later, I
mhm,
might not necessarily every single bit. So,
mhm.
is there
So
a way to visualize it?
yes, so basically, when you create the structure of your app, and you have in this level, you have the app, right? The parent. And then in each folder, we have the children, the direct children. And then if we had other children or other child component, we would create another folder here. That way we can visualize the structure of our app. And then the way to, if I don't know, I can type it if you want. I could do something like, so we have the parent. So it's like, so communicate between siblings, between sibling components. So the way to go is we need to create a function, or let me simplify it. Function updates state in common ancestor. Right? I'm typing really bad. Common ancestor. Then we need to pass that function to the child, and then update the state in the common ancestor was updated. And now we can pass it to the sibling. Pass this updated state to a sibling, and that's it. I don't know. We could make a drawing. Basically, you have to communicate first from the parent. You need to pass the function, and then you have to send the data to the state in that ancestor, in that parent, and then we send that updated data to the sibling again, to the other sibling. I don't know how can I explain this better. But right now, do you understand it? Would you like me to leave this here and then I paste the code on Slack?
No, I understood it. I just wonder, so, just for the benefit, obviously, in the future, when you do actually code it, I just want to know an easy way of, remembering how to do this. That's all. No, I understood it. That's fine.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, the way basically you need to know that you can only pass props down, not up. So the way to get the data from a child that is down the tree is by updating the state. And the way to update it is passing the function.
Is this like in any way similar to like traversal, where you go from left to the root to the right? So you always have to go through the root.
I think it's not the same thing. We are not iterating over a tree right now. We just have a tree of components. We are not creating an algorithm to do tree traversal. It's simpler than that. Like, if I understand what you mean. What you mean by tree traversal is yes, right? No, we don't even need to get into that. I'm calling it a tree because the way, if you have a parent component and then you have two children nested inside another component inside another component. That's what I mean. And okay, so if you don't have any other questions, I'm going to leave it here. I'll stop streaming.